Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 68 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me. And let me introduce our special guest for today, Eric Lee. He's going to be answering some questions today. Eric, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard the Talk4 podcast, man. Please do take a minute to just say hi and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do before we shoot some questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Louis. My name's Eric Lee. I'm a country music singer. Grew up in South Florida. I've been, in the music industry for a very long time. Been producing music mainly as my main focus as a career for most of my time doing music. And then, the pandemic happened, and I stopped being able to work with the clients I've been working with, and so I had a bunch of songs that I'd been writing, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot and release it. And, I threw caution to the wind. I reached out to one of my favorite mixing engineers, in the entire music world, named Vance Powell. And for those who don't know him, he does Chris Stapleton's records. He does Jack White's records, two of my favorite artists. And he responded back, and he said that he loved the songs, and, he was excited to, to collaborate with me, which blew my mind. I mean, right there, that's a win. Yeah. And so I released my debut single, Same Dirt Road, in November of 2020, and the people at Spotify Nashville, they liked it. Shout out to John Marks, who was the head of Spotify Nashville at the time, and he gave me such a boost, in my reach, right out the gate. Playlisted, the first three songs I released, like on all these editorial playlists, and and I've just been having a blast from there. Playing a bunch of shows in Nashville, and I did a small run, around the South, and that song actually was on country music radio stations too, which was a nice, nice feeling. So, yeah, that's pretty much the short end of it.
My man, I tell you what, so we got connected through a mutual friend, and I've actually had a good chance to listen to the music. I hadn't heard of you before that connection was made, but I love the music you make, man. It's so good, and I just can't wait to ask a few questions about, you and the music you're doing in the industry. So, man, if you're good to go, should we jump on to question one?
Absolutely. Let me let out this puppy out there. He's like, I thought he'd be good, and he's not. He wants to come and go. So
of course, right, man. Now, okay, for the guys who are not on video right now, we have a very gorgeous dog called Billy in the room as well, who I got to see, which is fantastic.
I wonder if he'll be good. Come on the camera.
Yeah, for the audio only ones are gonna be like, what the hell's going on here? That's great stuff.
Dogs, what are you gonna do? All right, shoot.
Hell yeah. Right, so let's rewind then. So for question one, tell us about your backstory, man. So how did you get into music, and what was your first instrument then?
First instrument was guitar, but I originally wanted to play bass, and I was living in South Florida, and my grandmother, she raised me and my brother, and she would take me to and from guitar lessons, every week, take me to any concert we wanted to go to. She was an incredible woman, and I remember going to this guitar place and asking, I want to learn bass, because I loved a lot of the funk music I was hearing and some cool punk bands I was listening to at the time. And he was like, kid, you don't want to learn guitar. You don't want to learn bass. If you know guitar, you could do bass. So that was my impression of his voice. And so I'm glad I took his advice, because now I get to do both in my studio here, and so, which is where I lay down my music. But yeah, I formed many bands in South Florida. It was, a great place in my experience to grow up. I have friends that I consider like family to me till this day. And man, after high school, I went into audio engineering school in Miami, and got certified in Pro Tools, and it was just a 9-month program. Recorded, my old band I was in, which I'm not very proud of, but it was our first. It was like a rock record, and it wasn't very great, but it caught the ear of somebody out in California, and I've never been to LA before, and we come out and we meet him, and I was doing that for a little while, and then got really heavily involved in music production. Through that, which was great. That whole process of that old band was kind of like more music school for me. right? Because I learned the ins and outs of the industry. I learned how to edit on a professional level, right? There's only so much you can pick up in school. So, yeah, and after, producing so many records, I fell into the world of music licensing, which to anybody doing music, licensing is going to be the biggest opportunity to make, to make an income, right? And because that's the area of the industry that really takes care of musicians and artists and producers financially. And what's so great about licensing a song is that you get to retain your rights to the music. You're just licensing it per, the use. And so that has really paid the bills for quite some time. In 2018, I had the honor of co-writing and producing a song for a dear friend of mine, Kalina Zanders, who has an incredible voice, and we landed the Super Bowl commercial, a Toyota ad, and it went on to be in the Winter Olympics as well as the women's tennis championship. And it blew my mind, and it was such a beautiful piece. I thought it was just going to be some car ad, and it ended up being such an uplifting piece of a Paralympic athlete who's won many gold medals, and so just blew my mind. And so anybody watching this, and if you're a musician, I highly recommend looking at some pitching companies that will pitch your music for licensing opportunities. Many of the distributors do that as well. Like people like distributors like CD Baby and TuneCore and things like that. But I'm currently with a great company run by these two women named Think Music, and shout out to those two right there.
Awesome stuff, man. And so was it an acoustic guitar? Was it a classical guitar you started with? And for me, I started with a with a classical guitar, and some instruments kind of have like a bit of a backstory to them. So mine was passed down from my granddad, who sadly passed away, and I get to kind of play it now for my grandma, who just she just loves it. So what were your first instrument? Obviously, like you said, guitar. Does your one have kind of like a little story behind it or anything? And like, where did you get it, and from where?
Yeah, first off, like, how amazing is that to have an instrument from your grandfather? I have an instrument from my grandfather-in-law, actually. He gave me a prized possession of his 1970s Martin, 1970 Martin acoustic, which I'll show you in a moment. But my dad gave me my first acoustic guitar. He's a great player, been playing in bands, his whole life, and but my first instrument that I really played a ton was an electric guitar, and that same guy at the tutorial shop sold me this guitar that was very complicated and not really my style at all, but it was a Jackson electric guitar with a Floyd Rose bridge, like the stuff that like the hair metal bands would use. And so it's an amazing guitar, not like really putting down anything, but man, it's it was so funny, and it's a very complicated guitar to restring for a beginner.
Right.
And so oddly enough, that was my first guitar that I would play on, and I remember I would just crank up the guitar. I had like a Mesa Boogie stack in my room, and I would just like jam to like all these records, and it was so, and I'd always like dream of playing some big shows and stuff, and so it's cool, man. Like I played not too long ago Whiskey Jam, and it was a packed house that night, and like Whiskey Jam is a great big event in Nashville where a ton of great country music artists up and coming, or who've become these huge stars, have all came through there. And so it was nice to get to experience that too, and I hope to play some even bigger shows. But that was the start. Let me show you this 1970 Martin.
Yeah, let's have a look. I want to see this thing. I've seen. Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, shout out to my grandfather, Cisco. Grandfather.
Oh wow.
It's pretty sweet.
That is so good.
Yeah, it's really beautiful sounding guitar, and he kept it in mint condition. But
man, that sounded absolutely beautiful. Even just that little bit. Wow, it's
oh,
amazing.
Thanks.
It's amazing how just guitars can produce this kind of thing, and it's always just sounds so amazing. Oh,
Yeah, well, that's a riff from my new single Truck Stop, which just came out a few weeks ago. Which that's been fun to promote. I got a bunch
mm,
of songs coming out this year. But yeah, I've recorded everything in this room, and then I collaborate with a bunch of incredible musicians in Nashville, primarily for lap steel and some live drums.
mm.
But man, it's amazing what you can do with technology, right? I can just use this microphone, and just
Oh
play
yeah.
play my acoustic, and then have a Pro Tools session and send that to another musician, and then get it all mixed down. It's pretty cool.
It certainly is, and man, oh, I can't wait to see the stuff that's coming out soon. But yeah, we're talking about the songs now. Then, so question two: why do you
Yeah.
think Old Dirt Road exploded like it did? Did you expect it to do as well as it did? And what do you think makes a song go viral in a sense? I know you mentioned kind of about having like a contact in Spotify. So yeah, just tell us a bit about that sort of the growth rate of this song.
Yeah, well, when Same Dirt Road came out, it was the message of the song is very much focused on unity. And there's so much division going on in my country right now, and hell, all over the world. And I feel like there's so many people in positions of power, that have platforms that basically are perpetuating so many conversations without any nuance, right? And it's tearing us apart. And then, the few are essentially, conquering the many, right? And
Mm,
so, that's kind of where my mind has been at, when I started releasing these songs. I meet so many people, not only all over this country, but all over the world. I've traveled all over the USA, and you come to find out that most people are incredible, and most people are loving, and their mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, and but the thing about what's going on, especially with how rapidly social media works with these headlines, we're so quick to demonize each other, and then that doesn't solve anything. You know what I mean? And so
mm,
that's where my heart was at writing that song, is wanting to encourage people to remember, hey, it's the same dirt road where we all grow up, and
mm,
we're all in this together. Which is, I know, is a cliche thing to say, and what's so great about country music is that it has, people think it's niche, but it's not. I mean, it's this genre that really appeals to so many people,
mm,
because it's so heavily focused on songwriting, and that right there allows for such a human connection. And so these songs just started pouring out of me, and that one really received well, because it came out during such a time where everybody was, in lockdown and
mm.
having cabin fever and typing away on their keyboards, bickering back and forth in comment sections, not getting anywhere productive. And I felt like the people at Spotify, initially, and people at country radio stations, they really liked it. They liked the message. They want to put the energy out there like I did. So uh, that's kind of the reason.
So how do you find people like that, for example? Is there a certain way, like if there's a musician kind of listening who's kind of thinking along the lines of, oh yeah, I'd like to try and do something else, or I think I've got like a really unique property with what I'm doing, or something that's different, or just done really well. What's the kind of the right way or right approach to kind of finding someone like that to help you out, especially if you're like a beginner?
Um, well, let me think about this. Well, it's interesting because I came at this like a beginner,
Mm,
and I meet, because I've been producing music, for a while, and I haven't really been thinking about the artist's perspective. So a lot of what I did was, honestly, I was a beginner,
mm,
and it was really a stroke of luck and the right timing, because the state of social media and the way Spotify did things at that time was different than the way that it happens today.
mm,
And so, like John Marks was, when he was there, he was the last guy that kind of shot from the hip. And he's, known for, if he hears something that he likes, he'll give it a shot, and I really think I've always been appreciative, specifically, obviously, to him, but of that mindset, because I believe art is meant to be human. It's meant for human curation.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting what happens with algorithms, and so, but for people looking to do it, it seems that today it's much different than it was when I was releasing music. Just, and when I first released my first single, it's a little different.
Yeah.
And so, anybody's guess would be as good as mine at this point, because I feel like a lot of content creators are struggling at this point because it's like always evolving, and a lot of people feel like they keep moving the goalposts, and it's different for each account. It's different for each person. And so I do believe that we're in an interesting time. We're in a transitionary time with technology and software, how it's rapidly changing. And I do think we're going to get to a place where it becomes the standard again for a little while. But I think that people just need to, do their research on the current state of like how, for example, for me, when I was releasing my first few songs, I was looking at how other successful artists were promoting their music online. And then I thought about, well, how can I do that my own way, maybe even better? And how could I utilize, social media at the time? And I even had a little bit of a budget to boost my posts and to run some social media ads.
Yeah.
And watched a ton of videos and listened to experts on that. But it's not the same technique that I used doesn't work the same way as today. And so anybody watching, it's really, one, it's all about having the song and the, your artistic vision really locked down. And two, you got to really develop a strategy that is effective and relevant for the current time that we're in, which who knows what that will be tomorrow. But you got to try, you got to take your shot. And, all I can say is, hey, we're all feeling it. You talk to anybody, you talk to somebody with 1 million followers, and they are frustrated with trying to figure out their reach as well, because we've all gotten accustomed to, the good old days of social media. And so, I don't know, that's my answer. That's my realistic response.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's a completely different ballpark nowadays than what it was like a few years ago. And I do think the kind of competitive side of that has become really like, it's just everything's getting filtered down and watered down now. It's just so much competition out there in everything. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it's so much easier to when you start out with these kind of social media things, it tends to be a lot easier at the beginning to kind of go viral and pick up that following. When they start to bring in more of the sort of pay to play stuff, I think that's where you kind of start to lose the organic side of things. But just something I want to ask you as well now, actually, because we're kind of talking about the future of music and where things are going then. I've been seeing a lot about the kind of the AI generated stuff recently. So I'm just wondering, like, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that's going to be really prevalent, do you think, in the future of music? And in the future, if it is prevalent and it is taking over and kind of filtering down the industry and stuff, how do you think the actual kind of organic and real people can actually beat this sort of thing and stay true to themselves?
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked me this question, because I've been talking a lot about this, and with, at least in my friend group, and I left a comment on a post by Metaverse with a 3 there. They're a pretty big technology account. They comment on a lot of AI stuff. And I left a comment that said they posted something about, they made a post about Kanye West covering very popular songs, and it was all AI generated. Somebody created a model of Kanye West's voice and applied it to a Frank Ocean song and a Drake song and so on and so forth. And listen, for fun, if without considering the big picture, sure, that's fun. But having a perspective, that in an opinion that I have, I commented, human beings are constantly finding ways to devalue the contributions of other human beings. That's what I commented. And it got a bunch of likes and a few like hate responses, for, I think younger people who just like, they feel like, oh, it's not that serious, you know what I mean? It's nothing. But I don't really think, I think that there are two types of people, right? And I think that, you know, there are people that are focused solely on capitalizing on an opportunity, and I get it. That's the world we live in. It's not only in this country. But the thing about it is art is such a gift to human beings. It's
Yeah.
something that is exclusive to human beings. And I think we are doing ourselves a massive disservice by taking that away from us. Think about it. Because I believe, and this is just my opinion, that art is something that can only be created by another human being. It has to be human expression for it to be considered art. I think somebody who creates an AI generated artistic or anybody who creates AI content, AI art, whether it's image or music, I think they have more in common with somebody who, like a business entity who is commissioning something else to create an art piece rather than an artist themselves.
Yeah.
When you think about that. And the interesting thing is that they're not even commissioning another human being to create this art. And so what we're witnessing is, a drastic impact on the balance between art and commerce. It's a huge shift. And the thing about AI is that its sole focus is commerce, nothing more. And so I think like throughout the 1900s, I feel so old saying this, the 1900s, we saw a balance between art and commerce. We saw a balance between art. Yeah, just to say that again, we saw a balance between art and commerce. Sometimes, yeah, sure, we got the fast food of music, but I feel like what it's gonna listen. The train's already left the station, and so I'm not gonna sit here and in the back in the sidelines and point and say how bad that is. I think that, to piggyback on that third question, I think that we as artists have no other choice but to try to learn about it, stay ahead of the curve, and be some of the first to use it in a way that works for us, but with integrity. I think that we can use AI in the promotion of our music. I would thoroughly encourage other artists and songwriters not to use it when creating their own art, because I think it's doing themselves a disservice, and I think it devalues music as a whole. That being said, I just saw a post on Instagram that stated we're going to see a ton of AI-generated music this year, and I don't doubt it. And so, does it enrich society? Does it enrich human beings? I don't think so at all. I think that we are cutting off our noses to spite our faces, and but I'm 36, man, so I'm looking at this differently than somebody who is like 18, 14. I mean, that's all people know, and these people are maybe generating AI art, and they think that they're an artist, and it's interesting.
It is interesting, and I think the way I sort of see it is like the thing that it loses in that sort of pursuit of commerce and this AI generated stuff is like, you say art, music is art, but if we take like actual paintings and art, like some of the legends of history and stuff, you can see it, people love it so much because there's so much passion that's gone into that, and there's so much vision that's come from a person, and that's so different from something that can just be generated. And I think that's why the value of these things is so high as well. Like, these things go for millions, but when you start doing this stuff that's so solely focused on commerce, and it becomes so mainstream and it just floods the system, the individual value of like each one of them goes down. And it's a bit like, for example, it's a stupid example, but if you take like the kind of verification badge on Instagram or something, or Twitter, in the old days, like even a few weeks ago or something, that was usually like a sign of someone who's very special in some way, wasn't it? Now that they've monetized that, everyone's got it, the actual value of it's gone down. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this music industry too, and art and everything. I think that's already happening. We can clearly see that, can't we?
We can. I think you nailed it. And me as a person who's dedicated my entire life to music, one, I feel extremely grateful to have done that and to really been a part of a time of music where, I really got to experience an incredible time of music and make some songs that I'm very proud of and to collaborate on other songs that I'm very proud of. And I think there's examples of rising technology in music, by the way, that is rather impressive. I was just at the NAMM conference in Anaheim, and they had many, many rooms showcasing mixing in Dolby Atmos, where you can hear the music on top of you, behind you, on the sides, in front of you. And that, a lot of mixing engineers will disagree. Personally, I think that is a great thing to look forward to in the future because it makes music innovative again. I think it's what stereo was to people who had only heard music in mono previously. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of technology is really good. I think AI is very good for something like the medical industry, absolutely.
Yeah.
But in regards to art, I think that it sounds like we're in agreement. But yeah, it's interesting. I would see people, they'd get really upset over that simple comment. People get really upset over on the internet, and I'm not even being that. I didn't say anything that controversial, but it was interesting. Some of the messages I was getting. And, I would just say that, I just want people to really think about the big picture and think about what a gift it is to push the human mind and to really express yourself, right? That's what art is. It's an expression of us as human beings. And to just hit a button and have a AI create the majority of it or all of it, I mean, I just feel bad for people who are gonna really miss out on that gift.
Definitely, but also that's kind of off-putting to new people who want to go into the industry. Like if you've got a real passion for like making music or something and you're thinking, well, I want to go into this as a profession now and I want to make my music and stuff and I don't want to do it through AI, I want to do it like this. They're going to start thinking, oh, well, how competitive is this now? And they might be deterred from it and think, well, I better go and do this and play the safe card instead and not follow their passion. And it's just, that's where AI just kills it. But also that may well be its Achilles heel in the future too, because maybe people are actually going to start to realize how valuable the kind of honest creators are versus like just these button pushers who are just making things solely for the purpose of just having that that income and that commerce side of things. And then they're going to start going back to doing full circle and thinking, well, we've flooded the industry now with all this stuff, actually we want to hear some real stuff now. So maybe that will be the Achilles heel of it too.
I like to believe, man. I'm hoping so. One thing I was trying to remember I wanted to say is that a lot of these people really like angrily championing AI will say, oh, it's just gonna push human beings to like, find more meaningful jobs and do more valuable things with their life. And I'd ask them, okay, what are those jobs? Where are they? And they say, well, I don't know, but someone's gonna think of it. And I go, real okay, that seems pretty naively optimistic. I feel like, statistically speaking, not to get super dark, but every time unemployment rises 1%, at least I think in this country, like I think it's like 20 or 30,000 people die statistically or something crazy like that. And so I just feel like, I just want to encourage people to really think more about the macro side of things. It's easy though. I mean, times are hard, right? And it's very competitive out there. And everyone's trying to survive and everyone's trying to do what they can. But it's, at the end of the day, you say, the Achilles heel, man, it's, I think at the end, what is the world going to look like? I definitely, I don't know, there's pros and cons with everything, so to speak. And I think that we're definitely in a transitionary period. And hopefully, governments think of ways of legislation that protect copyright, that, maybe there's requirements. I just think that we need to think about the human aspect of things. It's the reason why we're living, man. Art is emotion. It's the full purpose of living life. So
Well,
That's
man,
my
we're so there's so much division like, in the world and stuff. And honestly, you can comment anything if it has your opinion behind it. There's gonna be those people who reply to it and message and oh yeah, you're this and you're that and your opinion sucks and all of this. There's unlimited amounts of them. But the thing is, music brings people together, and that kind of is like the band-aid on that division because everyone can, everyone loves music. That's just fact. Everyone loves music, and that's what brings people together. And when you murder the soul of music by flooding it with commerce and losing its core characteristics, then we get more divided because of that. It's gonna get worse, folks, before it can get better. 100%.
Yeah, I think you are right about that. I mean, I would even say it's a fundamental need, even past human beings. Like, I just walked out of my bedroom and I had music playing in there, and my cat and dog, they love music. And the cat was right underneath
How
the
do you know
speaker.
that? Just out of interest, how do you know?
You can just see the cat sprawling out around the speaker, loving what it's hearing. I mean,
Right.
specifically the cat, I've really noticed. Maybe call me crazy, but there have been studies. There have been studies too, man, where you look it up on YouTube where they'll play different kinds of music to plant life, that's growing, and the effects are different. Sound waves,
Wow,
they're a
man.
very real thing. Frequencies, the way it interacts, there's types of sonic treatment, that vibrates through our bodies and contributes to health in certain
Mm,
ways. I'm no expert, but I do think that music is a very fundamental healing, important expression of human beings, and so but I just want people to just remember this, is that this is another example of the few trying to conquer the many.
mm,
And a lot of people might feel empowered by AI right now, but big picture, it's only going to work out for the few at the end of the day. And they will
absolutely.
find a way they will find a way, just like they always do, to change things, and to where it's only going to benefit the people on top at the end of the day. Right now,
Mm,
I feel like it's interesting. They're saying, oh, download Chat GPT and interact with it and tell it things. It's learning from us. We are all working for this system. We are all contributing to teaching it. And so I just want people to be really clear. And I hope that this video reaches more people so that we don't let each other get taken advantage of and get
mm.
played as fools. So,
Absolutely. No, it's a really important topic. This has been a great little chat part. I've loved this. But yeah, let's dig into how you actually kind of make a bit of money the right way then. So we're talking
oh,
about the licensing side of things then. So obviously I've seen that you did a lot of music licensing for TV, film and ads, it's on the website and stuff. I was wondering if you
yeah.
could tell us a bit about how these deals actually come about. Do you have to reach out to them or do they come to you? And do you have any tips for landing these types of deals?
So that was something I completely that fell into my lap. One of my best friends, this man, Frank Palazzolo, we used to be neighbors at an apartment community. And, we'd hang out, we'd grab some beers. And as he was growing into the music supervisor world, he used to be an assistant for Universal, and then for a really big time music supervisor. And now he's independent doing his own thing. And we'd always say, because he would see me growing as a music producer and getting better at doing that. And yeah, he'd always say, man, we got to write a song together. I bet you we could, with our powers combined, we could really create, some songs that land. And so the first song we made together, with his sort of input as far as, making a song have the qualities of a licensable, we were trying to get a movie trailer at the time.
Right.
And so we made that song, and he sent it around to a few buddies, and it landed. So it was a very lucky situation. It was a Universal movie picture, actually, for a trailer that it landed. And so
Wow.
it was the most money I'd ever made doing music. Trailers can pay a lot of money, And what's amazing is you retain your rights. And so for anybody looking to get into that industry, there are conferences that you can look up that I'll have to send to you, maybe to put in the link in the YouTube section or something. But
Of course.
honestly, look up music pitching companies. There's a ton out there. They take a commission. Some are more fair than others. And I think that ultimately it is, if you've got the goods and you're producing music that is great for movie trailers or great for the background of a television show or great for even at the in a montage in a movie or something. I think that it can take care of you financially much better than the music streaming royalties will ever take care of you. I mean, they say for every million streams you get around $4 or $5 depending on the state of numerous factors at like the streaming companies such as Spotify and Apple Music. And so it takes a lot, man. You have to legitimately become a celebrity today to make a living, a good living, being a music artist. You have to be clear on that. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't want to be a celebrity." No, you have to essentially be realistic about that reality, because it is really the only way you're going to make enough money, because the touring opportunities and the merchandising opportunities will not arrive unless you're generating the numbers through TikTok, and which leads to Spotify. And so anybody watching this, you have to do an insane amount of research and development, and then most importantly, you've got to have the songs and you've got to have the recordings in the right place. And and then now more than ever, it's a one-person show. I mean, I learned how to use DaVinci Resolve. I'm not a movie editor, but I had to edit my first music video myself and color correct it myself. And so my knowledge of music production and Pro Tools translated into video editing, and a lot of patience and YouTube tutorials, man. It works out. So yeah, I hope that answers some of the questions.
It certainly does, man. And it's funny kind of listening to you talking about that too, because I've played tennis since 4 years old, and I've always said to people, I've always said to people that I kind of wish almost sometimes that I had like a sport that was just a bit more simple. I didn't have to be so sort of profound in so many factors, because like, let's put it this way, in tennis, and I found this out the hard way a lot of times, you have to have everything in place. If you have a weakness, it gets cranked open, and that's, you have to move well, you have to be able to survive hours on end for days on end on the courts. You have to have the strength, you have to have the weapons, you have to have the mental game, you have to have everything. And it kind of sounds a bit like that in the music industry too. You have to have you have to be able to play it, you have to be able to edit it, you have to be able to do the damn marketing and the promotion, and you have to have the voice in a lot of cases too. So I mean, it's tough, isn't it? But yeah, last question about that. So do you have any tips for upcoming musicians looking to get into the industry and get known? Perhaps something you didn't know at the time that would have helped you in your journey. We had to talk about the future of things too. So like, what do you think is going to be very important for them in the future coming up?
So much. But, sadly, just to start with, is the majority of the industry does not care about your live performance. For the most part. I mean, they say that they do, but at the end of the day, if you have a song that is generating revenue, if you are going viral on social media, I'm just getting rid of this thing here. Sorry. If you have a song that is generating revenue, if you are in some way generating money, that is all the industry has come to care about. And we have to be very, very real about it. And there will be people that will say, no, sure, certainly not. And they'd be lying, because that is the truth. That is what we see time and time again. It is all about, are you succeeding? Are you generating the numbers? And so you got to be very clear that if you want to be an artist, Or if you want to be a songwriter, songwriters especially, they have a very difficult time because songwriting royalties don't generate a living wage unless you have to be pumping out hits, multiple hits a year to be making a living, anywhere close to making a living. It's gotten so bad that songwriters are now asking for a cut of the recording, the song's royalties as well, the recording of the song, which is called the master. But yeah, you have to do an insane amount of research and develop yourself and be realistic and work smart and hard. I see a lot of people coming to Nashville, and they'll go to Nashville and they'll be obsessed with doing writers rounds after writers rounds. The writers rounds are basically like open mics, but they're not open mics. They're curated, and they're hell of singers. Every night you go. What's so incredible about Nashville is that it is definitely the music capital right now, at least in the USA. And for a while there, it was Los Angeles, and now it's undoubtedly Nashville. And LA's still trying to, I feel like, find its what's going to be the cultural movement in music that happens to put LA back on the map. But it's definitely Nashville. And so I would say, and that doesn't necessarily mean, in my opinion, that you have to move to Nashville. But because I feel like a lot of people move to Nashville and they get caught up with, I'm going to sing my songs because we all have the desire to be in front of people. We want to perform. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. But I have to be very strategic about when I do that because, your time is valuable. And most importantly, if I'm putting a band together, I got to pay all those guys. And I got to think to myself, if it's coming out of my pocket, is the opportunity worth it? And so if you're an artist these days, I really think that we all have to make peace with the internet is essentially the main focus of everybody in the industry. It's all the industry cares about, and not to be cynical, but it's just the plain truth, is that are you making money? Are you generating, you have to be viral. You have to, that's essentially it. Or you have to be co-writing a bunch of hits if you're going to be a songwriter. And if you're a songwriter these days, I highly recommend you also should be a producer. You should be learning how to produce music. And so that you can participate in the recording and those royalties as well. So that is essentially, I will say, work smart. That used to be work smart, not hard. Now it's work smart and hard. I just came up with that, so work smart, just kidding. Work smart and hard is essentially what it's becoming.
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And it's definitely a case of going, like you said, you need to get viral. You need to have multiple hits. And someone who I met, Leah Hart, she's a singer from Ireland. She started on TikTok. She didn't start with the Spotify stuff. She didn't start with the Instagram stuff. That stuff kind of boosted it all. So she started on TikTok, went viral on TikTok time and time again. And then everything else around that started to really benefit from it. So if you were kind of like speaking to someone young nowadays who kind of really wants to do this, would you say it's almost a safer bet to just start on social media and kind of gauge the response before sort of committing to something a bit more competitive like the Spotify's and the sort of the big music industry stuff?
Oh, well, it has to start on social media because now the curators of Spotify or Apple Music, they will only really consider it. They are watching, they have even algorithms, I believe, that look at, so there's something called, what is it called? It is the stream. It's basically the TikTok to Spotify stream or river or something like that. Basically, especially in 2021, 22, used to be able to just be in here and play acoustic guitar, and then that kind of content got stale. Everybody got over it, So you have to be really creative, and especially for musicians, it is hard, because how do you just write a great song and ask somebody to listen to it these days, right? Especially when the algorithm generally sends it out to a generic batch of people. Unless you are boosting your post that is only when that's the only time when you can actually target an audience.
When you say boosting your post, do you mean with the kind of the revenue out of the ad stuff?
Yes, I'm talking about, yeah, advertising on
Yeah,
Instagram or Facebook. It's, I believe on Instagram it's called boosting a post, or on TikTok you
yeah.
can hit promote. And you used to be able to get so much bang out of your buck, just a
Mm.
year ago. Nowadays it has become so expensive for so many reasons that we don't have time to go over, I'm sure.
Sure.
I just want to be respectful, and I don't want to bore people, but there's a ton of videos you can watch as to why that is. But uh, yes, I believe it's not just a suggestion. It is the only way to get people on Spotify to consider you,
Mm.
because they are all about the algorithm currently. That is it. Algorithm is king on all platforms. Uh, Even distributors are now saying, like for example, I was seeing I won't call them by name to call them out, but there's another like popular music distributor, that's an independent music distributor, that says the moment you release your song on social media, that is your release date. They say don't wait for the song to drop on Spotify. Start dropping it on social media. And I personally take issue with that, because I feel like, and I'm sure they're coming from a very knowledgeable perspective, but I think that we have such a society that wants instant gratification. They want everything that they hear now.
Mm.
And because it's so difficult to retain an audience in general, how is the audience that likes your pre-released song, that isn't available on Spotify yet, how are they going to remember to look that up? And what are the chances of you posting a follow-up video that those people are actually going to see? So in my humble opinion, I like to wait until the song is available before I start promoting it, because I know that whenever I see a song that I like, I'm going to want to hear that song right away, or if I like it, I'm going to want to add it to my library. So
Mm.
it's currently the state of things. And we can have conversations on whether we like it or we don't like it. It just is what it is. And so you have to be great at marketing to be an artist. It's always been about an artist's personality, for
Mm.
sure. You look at a lot of artists that came out, through the generations, and you look back objectively and you're like, man, why did that artist get really big? They didn't really
Mm.
have like an
Yeah.
insane voice, but they had personality that really resonated with people. But there was still always that balance. They still had to have the goods musically.
Mm.
Now it is really going to be about how good are you on camera every single day. Like, you used to be able to be an artist and focus on the music, and and curate an image that you liked, that is artistic, and have some mystery that left people wanting more.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't think, how are we going to get these profound artists that unite people? Because that's what some of the biggest artists in the world used to do. Now with the algorithm feeding people what they already want, people find themselves in echo chambers. We don't come together about meaningful things. And so that's just my humble opinion. But not to be but the solution is this, in my opinion. The solution would be, if we really want to fix this thing, I say we organize a mass strike on social media, and we basically demand an ethical system that basically contributes to a brighter future, a bigger picture. But I mean, most people, no matter how much good it would do, unfortunately, we're so addicted to these things
Mm.
that I don't think that we would come to. I do. What's interesting too is that when you think about the one thing we most likely could all agree on is that how much we are so frustrated with these, and I'm not calling out this company, but how frustrated we are with our smart devices. We're all so frustrated. We all share that same frustration with social media, technology. It is stressing us all out. And I think that we could all unite like this. Imagine if we all planned the entire month of May, we're taking a strike. Imagine what that would do to a drop in ad revenue for all the major platforms. and we all delete these apps from our phone. And that is my opinion of what a big picture solution would be, because a month of that, you'd see all these, these videos coming out from all the, social media reps, and they'd be saying, well, now we have systems that are really thinking about ethical treatment of our content creators, and they would do something about this, I believe, toxic situation that people are feeling like we're all in. Because it definitely doesn't serve, I feel like it's not serving content creators. I don't think it's ultimately serving the many. But for somebody just trying to come up, I would say, please don't stress about this. Happiness is a state of mind. Security and peace, within yourself is so important. And just think about the work, take it one day at a time, and have fun doing it. And if it works, essentially nowadays we're all asking to win the lottery. One of my good friends, Tom Rhodes, was talking to me about this a few weeks ago. He's a great songwriter. And he was saying it's come to the fact that we're all just trying to win the lottery. And the odds of that, of winning the lottery, are not very good. So try to really focus and get clear on what things are in your control. And, no matter how young or old you are, just take it one day at a time, have fun, do as much research as you can, and, try to enjoy the process.
Man, that is some killer advice right there. I totally agree with that. Spot on, man. I've got nothing to add to that. It's absolutely brilliant. I would love to have a social media strike. I mean, if it will ever happen, that would be brilliant. But then
maybe we can, man.
Maybe
let's do
start it.
we could start it, man.
Kick it off.
It would be. Here's the thing. It would be effective. It would. When you think about, because money is basically, when you affect these companies' profit margins, that is when change happens. And nothing does that more than a strike. More
so
effectively
true.
than a strike.
But man, I mean, we're looking at this stuff, and if you take like the verification thing that they've just brought out, I think I read that they're set to make 1.7 billion a year already. And can I just say, just from fixing a very real problem that they had, because I'm getting fake accounts made of me at the moment, and they're messaging my friends trying to scam them, and they've managed to monetize that. So I mean, we're dealing with a behemoth in marketing and getting people's money. So it's a tough one. But maybe
I want people to think about this perspective, right? For the past few years, before a year or two ago, for the decade plus that Instagram, for example, and Facebook has been running, they would encourage their users to run ads to build your following so that you can always communicate to your followers.
Yeah.
And so I got to experience that for a very small amount of time. I started with like no followers. I started running, very strategic, ads to reach country music listeners, right? That's basically what you can do. And it was so much more affordable than it was today. I build my following, and then about a year and a half ago, basically now they say, oh, your follower count no longer matters anymore. For all content creators, only a very, very small percentage of your following is going to see your content, unless the algorithm deems that it's gaining attention of this, we'll call it the For You page of Instagram, because it's not going out to just your following anymore. It's going out to a generic, ever-changing algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because what I do is country music. There's people that hate country music, right? So how is that, so I know that, I don't take that, like whenever I don't get engagement on my stuff, I don't take that to heart as like, oh, what I'm doing isn't good enough. It's just the system is not, it's not really ideal right now. But what I really want people to consider is a fundamental line of trust has been broken between, so we'll say Schmeta, certain social media companies has been broken, because they essentially have people invest their time, invest their money to build a following, and then they said, oh, screw you, times are changed, times are changing, your following doesn't matter anymore. Oh, but please keep running ads. Please keep
Yeah,
doing that. And
so
why
true.
would we? Why I won't do it. I will not spend a dime anymore, dude. I do not do it. Because I feel like it's a big scam, and I feel like I shouldn't have to. I should be able to just communicate to the people that have opted to follow and support my music. And it's a bummer because I used to get messages from people all over the world, and now I know like a lot of people they're not seeing my posts, they're not seeing my
Mm,
content, they're not, and a lot of content creators are stuck in the same thing. And then you get certain people that you know are all fired up about it, online. They say, well, your content just isn't good enough, bro, and make better content, or
mm,
all sorts of stuff. And I just think that, in my opinion, yes, the fundamental line of trust has been broken, we'll say, with certain companies, and it has to be remedied, man, because it isn't right, and it definitely isn't respecting the content creators who have contributed to really boosting the platform. And this verification thing, I agree with you. I think it's another just money grab,
mm.
unfortunately, but that's just where society is headed. And so I tell people, don't be a sucker, and just take it one day at a time. Focus on the things you can control. And, at least nowadays, I saw a TikTok video where people are saying now the algorithm is focusing on long form videos, and the
Mm.
best videos essentially win. And so in many ways it will become more and more competitive, but at least we're not going to get bombarded with these like really spammy
Yeah.
5-second videos that are outrageous. Yeah, so I guess that's a kind of a win, but I'm still for the strike, man.
I'm up
Come
for
on.
it. I love it, man. I've just got to shout out the Schmetter. That's brilliant. I love it. That's how you know this guy's involved in licensing. He's got both
Oh
hands in
yeah.
his butt there. I love it,
This
dude.
is why you can post the video without a complaint there.
Oh, too good. Man, so I mean that's our four questions done for today, but just one last little trivia question then for you, my dude. So
Yeah, brother.
if you could pick any singer from past to present to sing something with, who would it be and why?
Oh man. There's so many. There's so many. But okay, I'm just gonna. There's so many, but if I can only pick one, I would say I was thinking about who are the best. I've got like a top 5 best female singers, best
Mm,
male singers. I was just trying to do a list, but the top female singer, in my humble opinion, is undoubtedly Whitney Houston. And I would absolutely have loved to have just even been a fly on the wall in the studio, man. And she's just written so many. I mean, when you hear her recordings and you hear her voice, that's not auto tune.
yeah.
You hear the what you hear in those recordings is like peak human, the pushing of a vocal, like the basically the pinnacle of talent and
Mm,
skill and hard work on somebody's the vocal craft. That combined with the songs that she sang, man, that would be amazing. Present, would love to collaborate though with Dave Cobb, incredible music producer, Chris Stapleton, Casey Musgraves. There's so many people I'd love to collaborate with. But yeah, man. But if I had to pick one, man, yeah, I was just thinking. I can't just pick one. But I was just thinking. I had the thought, like if you listen to "The Greatest Love of All," try not to get a lump in your throat listening
mm.
to that song, which is kind of a funny American Psycho reference. But it's like I don't know if for anybody who's seen that movie will know what I'm talking about. But man, it is a beautiful, beautiful song with an incredible sentiment. So one of my personal favorites. So yeah, that's my answer.
Excellent stuff, my man. So, well, like I said, that has been the four and a fair few more questions done for today. And before we
Sure.
wrap this up, let's get the promotion stuff done. Shameless plug moment for Eric Lee here. So, man, where can we find your music, your social media, and just send my dudes wherever that they can find your stuff?
Yeah, on social media, it's at Eric Lee Music. I got a website, ericlee.live. where I try to keep everything up to date. Uh, I'm planning on releasing a bunch more music. So keep an eye on my pages. Follow me. I guess there's an alert bell
Yeah.
that you can hit that guarantees you'll actually get updates from me. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm on YouTube as well. And hey, request me in your town, in your city, in your country. I would love to come visit. And yeah, that's basically that.
Great stuff. Eric, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on, my man.
Pleasure's all mine, Louis. Thank you for having me.
No worries, dude. And thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 68. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen in for our future ones, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.